excuse the language in this, by Lil Wayne. This isn't walk-in. So you see how he said, onto the kitchen where my witches keep it brewing. So you see that whole thing, Bucky buck naked. Look at all my girls, bodies. I'm just gonna use that. This is all symbolic blasphemy, but I'm just gonna keep it straightforward. So you see how he says, onto the kitchen where my witches brewing, and they all butt naked. But he said, I'm crucial. Don't mean to spook you, but this is New Orleans, so my queens do voodoo. So you see how he's saying that. That whole thing goes to that witchcraft with the cooking, etc. Remember how I was explaining about that? I'm gonna get into this whole aspect. I'm gonna go deeper into like a lot of them, Trina, a lot of them, But the whole thing with the red bones and how they use that, that's why Beyonce had to be paired with Jay-Z. They got to pair certain people with certain people to really magnify that person's potential. You kind of see what I mean? So in that instance, Jay had to be with Beyonce because they had to, magnify. Remember, he goes by Hove. That's just Jehovah blasphemy. You know what I'm saying? So that whole thing with Beyonce, the higher, like one of the highest level of red bones you can get in the industry. High level witch. You see what I'm saying? That's why Jay-Z heavy on that 444 because, they heavy on that working in the law blasphemy. The 44 dealing with the law. So they want to do their law, keep their law of lawlessness, working in people's lives, So they already know about the original sin anyway with the, dealing with the animals because it's written, he that killeth an ox is as he who slew a man. You see what I'm saying? And as it's written too, like I got a breakdown on this, I can put that out in the comment section. But let my prayers be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. So you see all of that goes into how, they try to, we can still, eating flesh is the closest way into the whole thing, but it's the original sin. And that's why they set women up to cook how they do. Cause remember Eve, she the one who gave Adam the fruit, said we didn't die. The fruit is just going into how the animals were made, out of the fruit with the seeds of the fruit off the tree. The Father used those seeds to bring forth the animals. You know what I'm saying? Like how people can say they plant, say for instance, people familiar with gardening, right? How they say you got your pineapples, or you'll take apart, you'll take the layer of the pineapple from the top, you'll cut that, you'll plant it in soil, and now you got more pineapples, or vice versa with watermelon with the seeds and so forth. They bring more watermelon, you know what I'm saying? So it's all connected. You see how remember Sierra had the song Goodies back in the day. People look at me and think that I'm, young, well, I'm not, that you gotta have it, work my body, and all that stuff, my cookies in the jar, oh, yeah, So the cookies in the jar, because that whole thing, the cookie anyway just goes to blaspheming the bread of life, which is just Christ. And they want to, she said her cookies in the jar because they want to keep the truth hidden. They don't want people to know what's going on. The cookie in the jar, they don't want people knowing what's really going on and seeking the Lord. Just keep him hidden. Keep him in that mason jar. Those sorority, those fraternity boulets, the black boulet mason jars. This is serious. And that's why they like to use that, just for discretion, but the P word cat, you know what I'm saying? They like to use that talk because remember as it's written, Satan is as the lion seeking whom he may devour. So they want people chasing after the cat. They want people to chasing after Lucifer. A man out there trying to chase after the woman and get sent into the sunken place. You kind of see where I'm going with this. And vice versa, women with the men being deceived.